Hello, it's Alpha here, and today we are gonna be talking about normal arena PvP meta. So I have split this topic into two different videos. One video will be about the defense heroes and teams, and then the next one will be about attack teams. So in this video I will first show a tier list that I made for the defense heroes, and then I will show some team examples for the different maps. And then on the next video, I will also show like a tier list for attack heroes. And then I will show some ideas on how you can use those attack heroes against some like popular meta defense teams. And the reason why I have kind of made two different tier lists is that some of the heroes are like really good on attack side of things, but they're not as good on the defense side of things. So I think it makes more sense to have a separate tier list for attacking and defense, because if you just get like one rating for a hero, it doesn't necessarily give you like accurate image of said hero. Okay, so a couple of things about the tier list. So it's good to keep in mind that this is mostly based on like my experience of using these heroes. So I don't necessarily have as much experience on all of the heroes. So maybe your opinion on some of the rankings is different, and that's fine. And I have ranked these heroes like based on the idea that all of the heroes are at Supreme Plus level, because most heroes kind of need at least the Supreme Plus level to actually work properly. I mean, there are some heroes that need less, but most will want Supreme Plus, and then also most will probably want a plus 10 level exclusive weapon. So that is kind of like the base level of all of the heroes. Now, I would say that if you're using Celestial Hypergen heroes or kind of your main damage dealer heroes, those heroes probably should have a level 25 weapon. So I have marked heroes on the tier list that I think that should be upgraded to like plus 25 with a red dot. Then I have also marked some heroes with blue dot if I think that they can work with like only plus 5 weapon, for example, instead of like the plus 10 standard level. And then I have marked a couple heroes with a yellow dot if I think that you can use them on defense without having them upgraded at Supreme Plus, but actually on defense I don't think that there are heroes like that. But for attacking there are some heroes that work with less copies, so maybe you can see that on the next video. But yeah, I didn't do these markings for the bottom three tiers of heroes, because if you have other options, like if you have the option to use other heroes, I probably would not use currently those heroes on your defense team. So then I didn't bother like giving all of them the weapon level needed. And some of the heroes on this tier list I have placed kind of between two tiers, and that is because I don't necessarily have enough experience to say whether they should be on the higher tier or on the lower tier. And then, or if I just think that they are kind of like in between the tiers. And one thing that is kind of also good to remember about this is that things like Paragon levels and rivalry stats will affect some heroes a bit differently. Like for example, support and tank heroes will get weaker if they have like Paragon disadvantage, because Paragon will affect things like damage taken and the amount of healing that your heroes are able to do and the amount of shields that your heroes are able to get. So obviously if you are at Paragon disadvantage, then the healings will get less effective. And because of this reason, if you are like facing opponents who have mostly Supreme Plus heroes and you have like Supreme Plus heroes as well, then heroes like Twins can actually work decently well as like a tank hero, because if you didn't know, Celestial Hypergen heroes will receive like rivalry stats even at Supreme Plus level, so they will get once you get a Celestial Hypogean to Supreme Plus level, they will get some extra like healing power and some extra damage reduction, etc. So if everyone is at Supreme Plus level, then heroes like Twins are a bit more tankier than if your opponent actually has like mostly like Paragon 2 heroes and your Twins are still at Supreme Plus level. They will kind of like start to feel a bit less tanky. So I'm not gonna be spending too much time talking about the bottom 3 tiers of heroes. They're not necessarily like bad heroes, but the issue is that they are just like either too squishy, so you can't really use heroes that won't be able to survive something like Aaron Ulmus, pulling everyone together and then just doing AoE damage. So a lot of these heroes will just die to Aaron Ulmus. And yeah, a lot of these heroes are just like melee heroes without any ability to target the backline. So what will end up happening is that they will just run towards the enemy tank and then they will start hitting the tank. And that is not usually something that you can do. And then even if these heroes are able to survive the burst at the start of the fight, they are just kind of like too low impact / slow to then survive the second wave of damage coming from things like AoE ultimates from Cyran, Thaleen, Tassi, and then being sniped by Athalia, for example. So yeah, it's just hard to use a lot of these heroes in the current state of meta. So yeah, I think that's it about bottom 3 tiers. I have Lorson kind of like in between the tiers because I don't have enough experience using him, and I don't necessarily think that he's that great currently, but I could see maybe him having more value now with Athalia being there, so he can potentially boost the damage of your Athalia, and even if Lorson dies quickly, the first link that he creates between the two heroes will still stay there. Then I also have Viperian and Harak kind of between the good and usable tier because I think they are a bit better than most of the other heroes on the usable, but I don't think that they're necessarily good tier heroes. Like Viperian, pretty much no one is honestly using him on the top tier, but I think he can do decent damage and he has the crowd control immunity at the start of the fight, so he kind of fits into this idea of you like grouping heroes around Ludovic. So if you don't have the other options, then I guess Viperian could be like something that I would start testing with. And then Harak is definitely a hero that can like snowball the fight, so if you are able to keep your Harak alive, he can like start killing everyone, but the issue is that it's very difficult to keep him alive long enough for that to happen, so that's why I don't know if he's actually that good. Now, I don't actually have that much experience using him on defense, so maybe you have more experience and you know that he is good, but yeah, that's just kind of what I have seen from him. Okay, then we can move into the good tier of heroes. We can start by talking about Aaron. Now, Aaron used to be like very meta when it comes to normal arena defense, but after like Lily May was introduced into game, he became quite a lot worse because Lily May will obviously interrupt the Aaron's ultimate if you don't do anything about it. So then he kind of disappeared from defense teams, but now with introduction of Cyran and Twins, he's kind of coming back a little bit more, and I think he can be like decent on defense side of things. Then we have Hugin as a support, like he can provide really nice shields and he can also ultimate quickly, so you can kind of use him in combination with Cryonaya, for example, because if the enemy team is running Lily May, then usually the Lily May will interrupt your Hugin instead of the Cryonaya. Then we have Ulmus. Ulmus is just in general like a decent tank, but he is usually used in combination with Aaron, so if you're running like Aaron on your defense, then using Ulmus on your defense team as well is like a decent option. And I think with Ulmus you don't actually have to like upgrade his weapon past level 5 if you don't want to. Obviously he will benefit from having more stats, but he will work fine even at just +5 weapon level. So that's why I have the blue marker beneath him. So then we have Gerda. She definitely needs more testing when it comes to how viable she actually is, but she's decent on defense because you can place her at the back of your team, and if the enemy is running something like Bonnie, then the Bonnie will target your Gerda, and then Gerda will jump to the front of your team, and she can do some frontlining, and she will also keep on healing your team if you place your team around the healing area that she creates. And the most kind of useful thing about her is that the healing area will give your heroes crowd control immunity for like 5 to 6 seconds. So that can be very useful with some heroes like Athalia getting crowd control immunity at the start of the fight, or something like Harak getting crowd control immunity at the start of the fight. So that is something that people don't necessarily realize about her. Then we have Thoran. Thoran has kind of fallen off a bit, but he's still like a decent tank. He used to be like the best tank, and he can also work with less upgraded weapons, so that's why he has the blue marker. Then on the specialist side we have Brian. Brian is not really that great when it comes to like dealing damage. Like he's decent at dealing like single target damage, but the main reason why he is there is that if you want to protect your heroes from Lily May, then you will use Brian. So if you're running team with Aaron, for example, you would potentially want to use Brian to block the Lily May's interruption, or you could run Brian if you are doing something with Cyran or Cryonaya or whatever. And Brian can also block one fatal blow, so he's not that easy to kill. Then we have Satrana. Satrana is great in combination with Bonnie, and then Satrana also will give healing reduction to enemies, so they are not going to be able to heal as well. And Satrana can give your team magic resistance buff. But the reason why she's kind of like only at good level on defense is that, once again, she doesn't do that well against Aaron and Ulmus comp. Then it's possible that she will die before she is able to even use that ability. Then we have Igor. Igor is once again great with combination of Bonnie and Satrana, but because Satrana is not as good on defense, that kind of lowers a little bit the value of Igor as well. And also Igor is not as good on defense side of things, because while he is insanely tanky, like he's very good at tanking heroes like Harak and Athalia, but the issue is that he can be executed. So if the enemy team is running something like Odie or Cyran or whatever, Cryonaya, then Igor will actually lose a lot of his value. So if you're using him on defense, then most likely your opponents will be using those heroes against you. So that's the reason why he's not as good on the defense side of things. And then we have Dunlinger. He can definitely be good on the defense side of things, but the issue is that, let's say you're using him to block the ultimates of all of the heroes, then your opponent can just use a team that doesn't really rely on ultimates. So then you're kind of wasting one spot to some extent by using Dunlinger in your team. Or let's say that you're using him to block the healing of the enemies on defense, then they can just use an attack team that doesn't use healing. So it's kind of like hard to use him effectively on the defense side of things. Then I have placed Cryonaya between the great and good tier. Now this is because Cryonaya is one of the heroes that I have like the least amount of experience actually using or attacking against on the normal arena. Now I think she has potential definitely, because if she gets her ultimate out, it usually means that the fight will end. But obviously the issue is that it's very hard to protect her long enough for that to happen, and also because you have to make sure that enemy Lily May doesn't interrupt your Cryonaya. So yeah, because I don't have enough experience to actually say how easy that is to do, then I wouldn't say that she's necessarily great or good. Then we have the great tier, which is quite empty on the defense side of things. We have just Damien here. Damien is definitely a great healer because even if he kind of like dies during the fight, he will just resummon his healing card at some point in the fight. He's able to do decent amount of healing, and then he also gives your team some haste. But he's a little bit slow at healing because it takes him like, I don't know, 3 to 4 seconds before he starts healing at the start of the battle. And a lot of the attack teams are very burst heavy. So that 3 or 4 seconds, depending on your team, is sometimes too slow, and your team will die before he really gets his healing off. So that's why he's not at the very top of the tier list. Then we have Callan at the great tier. Now with Callan, I don't actually have that much experience using him, but the reason why he is kind of here is that a lot of the attack teams will do right away a lot of damage. So for example, like Cyran will start by doing a lot of damage to your backline. Talene will start by doing a lot of damage to your backline. Athalia will quite quickly dash into your backline and potentially kill your backline heroes. So Callan will start the fight by creating this shielding area around your heroes, so that can prevent them from dying for all of this burst damage at the start of the fight. And obviously there is like Aaron and Ulmus who will also do burst damage at the start of the fight. So Callan should work well against like all of those situations. The other reason is that if the enemy team is, for example, using Dunlinger, Dunlinger has the ability to block healing, but Callan doesn't actually heal your team. He just like takes damage instead of your team, so he will still be able to protect your team to some extent from the burst damage coming from the enemy team, even if they have Dunlinger. And just in general, a lot of the teams right now are using heroes like Twins or Cyran or Ludovic, etc. So those heroes are kind of like immobile heroes that will stand in place. So that means that they will stay inside the Callan's protected area. So I would imagine that it's good to use him in combination with those heroes. Then we have Twins. A lot of the defense teams are using Twins right now because they are able to do some tanking, and they will give your team haste and some healing and shielding and attack buff and defense buff, and they're just like easy to use on a lot of teams, and they will give you some nice buffs right at the start of the fight. But they can be a little bit difficult to use because at the same time they are still quite squishy. So yeah, then we have Athalia and Bonnie, kind of like between the Meta Plus and the Great. The reason why they are there is that Athalia like seems to be very strong, and she doesn't really necessarily need anything to support her. You can kind of like use her as part of pretty much any team, and she will do just fine. But I don't have enough experience to know if she's actually like the very top tier. But yeah, she definitely seems strong, so she will probably move into the Meta Plus. And Bonnie is definitely kind of like meta, like most of the teams are using her. But the reason why I have her kind of like not at the very top is that she can be a little bit difficult to use on the defense side of things, because first of all, you have to use other heroes that will deal magic damage for her aging debuff to spread. Because if you don't have enough ways to spread the aging debuff, her value goes down a lot. But at the same time, you need enough heroes to make sure that she stays alive at the start of the fight. But yeah, at the same time, she's definitely like one of the best damage dealers, because all you have to do is just get the aging debuff out, and then it doesn't even matter kind of what she does after she has used the aging debuff. That's all you need from her. Yeah, and then we have the Meta Plus tier. These heroes are here because they are kind of like very easy to use on basically any team, and they are kind of like the best heroes in my opinion for their roles. So for tanking we have Fresto. He provides 2 tanks and he can like tank a lot of damage, and he will also give your team some buffs, and he has healing reduction, so he's like really easy to just use as a front line for basically any team. Then we have Ludovic. Ludovic is kind of like the best healer in my opinion, because he has at the start of the fight, he's unaffected by any like crowd control effects. So Aaron and Ulmus won't be able to like kill him as easily. And he will start the fight by like instantly starting to heal your team. And that is of course important because a lot of the teams are very like burst heavy. And lastly, his healing area will stun enemies when they walk into the healing area. So that is good against some assassin heroes like Sylvina. So if like Sylvina jumps into your team, or if Athalia jumps into your team, they will usually get stunned by the Ludovic's healing area. So that will buy your heroes some more time. So he's just great hero all around and can be used in pretty much any team in my opinion as well. Then we have Lily May. Lily May is just good damage dealer, and her ability to interrupt ultimates is very important. Like if you can interrupt Aaron's ultimate or Cryonaya's ultimate or Cyran's ultimate, that is very important. And she's also like quite hard to kill, at least at the start of the fight, because a lot of her abilities will make her untargetable. Then we have Tassi. I'm sure you know how annoying Tassi can be. She has great synergy with Bonnie, for example, because she's magic damage dealer. And usually if your Tassi will get her ultimate out, she potentially can kill the whole enemy team. So she's easy to kind of slot into any team. Then we have Taylene. Taylene is kind of good for similar reasons to Tassi. She's magic damage dealer, and even if she dies at the start of the fight, she will just like revive, and then at some point in fight, if she gets her ultimate off, that will potentially kill the enemy team, because it's like AoE magic damage. And you can even use her as like a semi-tank hero in your team. I mean, she won't be able to tank a lot, but at the start of the fight, you can kind of like place Taylene at the front of your team, and then it doesn't matter that much if she ends up dying to the burst team, because she will revive quite quickly back into the fight. And then lastly we have Cyran. Cyran is great at dealing AoE damage, and he also deals magic damage, so that's why he's good with Bonnie, for example. And he is immune to crowd control effects at the start of the fight, so that's why he's decently good against things like Aaron and Ulmus at the start of the fight. So he's just like easy to use once again in pretty much any team, and he does a lot of damage. And the ability to disable the enemy artifact can be very impactful in some of the situations. Like if the enemy wanted to use something like enlightening spell, for example, on their Diurnal, or enlightening spell to protect against your Aaron, Ulmus, crowd control, etc. So yeah, here are just some like general notes about defense teams. In my opinion, I don't think that there is one best defense team. Like all of the defense teams have their own weaknesses. A lot of teams right now are using Cyran and Bonnie. So if you are using Cyran, I would usually place Ludovic next to your Cyran so that he is more tanky. And I would not place Cyran at the backmost position, because if the enemy is using Bonnie, then their Bonnie will target your Cyran, and that means that your Cyran is most likely to die quite quickly, even if the Ludovic is next to him. Then if you're using Bonnie, I would try to avoid placing her in spots where she can be targeted by enemy Sylvina, Nara or Rainier, because if they are able to kill your Bonnie at the start of the fight, then you will usually end up losing, because your Bonnie won't be able to do anything. And then, like I said, kind of on the tier list, I think in general Ludovic is probably better healer than Damien in my opinion. But most of the times when you are using Damien, you could be using Ludovic instead. But I guess there are some situations where Damien is better than Ludovic. Like if your team is not gonna be like standing a lot in one place, then obviously it's a lot harder to heal them. So then maybe I would be using Damien instead. Like if you're using a lot of heroes like Tassi and Athalia, for example. And then lastly, I will show you some team ideas for the different arenas. Now these are teams that I've seen people using and then I have modified them so that I think that they are good, but not all of them are necessarily that tested, but you can give them a try if you want to. And I'm not going to explain each of the teams in details because it would take way too long time, but hopefully you can get the idea of the team from these images. So because Athalia is still like relatively new hero, I haven't actually seen a lot of teams using her. So I tried to think of some teams for her on Arena 3 and these are some of the teams that I came up with. Now these are not tested teams, so I don't actually know how well they work, but if you want to give them a try, then go ahead. These were kind of like the teams that I came up with. So yeah, that's it for the normal arena defense meta right now, in my opinion. I will upload these images to a Google document that I will have a link in the video description, so you can check out the tier list and some of the team ideas for yourself. And then on the next video, we'll talk about the attack tier list, and then I will show how you can use those heroes to counter some of these defense teams.